Okay, so how do you trust the process of using your life as medicine, or can you give me a little bit more specifics on that? I did want to kind of go into it generally because, again, when you're using your life as your medicine, you have to always understand that your life is always your medicine. I think that's the biggest thing that we forget sometimes, is that life is always our medicine, not just when we are deliberately utilizing it to get an outcome that we desire. So whatever presentation you have going on in your body is a demonstration of the healing that's always happening, and it is showing you the reflection of the truth about your life. And when I say the truth about your life, it's not just like the truth about the foods that you're eating. It's truth about the beliefs behind why you're choosing the foods that you're eating, the truth about how you feel about those that you're eating with, the truth about how you feel in your own body, the truth about how you feel in your world. That's what I mean when I say the truth. So the beautiful thing about your body is that it's going to reflect back to you the truth no matter what. It's on your side, even though it seems like it's sabotaging your happiness or your joy. It's actually doing exactly the opposite. It's showing you what's true in your life. It's showing you what's true in your world. And when those inputs are sustained, that's when we have a sustained chemistry in circulation in your blood. And when that's in circulation for a prolonged amount of time, it starts hitting your cells and your tissues just because it has access to all of those things. We won't go into all the science, that's for some other time, but all of your life is always medicating you. So this moment is medicating you just like the one before. And the next moment, the next moment, the next moment, all of them are medicating you. There's no moment that does not touch you. And that's the beauty. And when you start thinking of it that way and you think about how good you are doing, you start to get a glimpse of what it actually means to heal. And the promise, I say healing is a promise all the time. And I think it would benefit you to really spend a good amount of time with that statement because it is true. And when you go into that and you see that healing is a promise, and you see that it's also true that everything in your external environment and everything in your internal environment are always communicating to your chemistry. And so when you see it that way, you can either get massively overwhelmed and be like, oh my goodness, I need to go live in a bubble. Or you can start seeing it as the gift that it is of it's a dance, and how you dance and play in this world. Not only is it your enjoyment, not only is it your pleasure, not only is it your fulfillment, not only is it all of those things that create the feelings, but it's also what's creating chemistry within you too. And so this again can get super big and complicated, but we always want to keep it distilled down because the truth is the truth, and you don't have to study it for it to be in action. But that's what unfortunately our world has gotten into, is a world of information where we don't trust the simplicity of the truth that we're walking around in every single day. And we need people to, be the echo chamber back to us about what we already are sitting in, right? And so that's really what these little sessions even are for, is, if you've done any of the classes, if you've worked with me, is to remind you to continue it and remind you that there's no moments where it's going to be more that you need to go gather, right? It's really like how I said earlier this week in that post, change is loss, right? And it's a beautiful thing, and true healing is needing less and less and less instead of accumulating more and more and more. And when you really think about that, and you think about everything that we've just said in this short amount of time, it could make your mind explode in the most beautiful way possible, or it could overwhelm you. And if you're in the camp that's overwhelmed, that's when you're to the point where you need to stop and you need to wash out and you need to focus, oh my goodness, that scared me, on living. And so just like that, for example, that moment of, even though this is where my focus was, that medicates my physiology, even though my focus was here. So a burst of something that shocked my system, I'm going to have the adrenaline, the stress hormones from that, even though this was where I was at. So all of this is taken into consideration for my body, right? I was able to go and address the threat immediately and come back down to a neutral set point. But this is how your body is so dynamic, and it's always responding to everything. But the thing that we don't take into consideration is that it's responding to the truth, right? And so that's where your individual life can get complicated, because you can be sitting at a table in front of an organic farm fresh, everything grown salad, and it can be toxic because of the state that you are in, right? And so this is where, again, it's not going to be the thinking that gets you out of it. It's going to be the changing and how you are being in your life. And that's why it's really in the living that you're going to set yourself free, not in the learning. Everyone, I guarantee everyone here knows more than you should, way more than you should. And if it's going into application, if it's being used in a beneficial, positive way, then it's benefiting you. If it is just mental accumulation, or if it starts seeding fear into every action that you take, no matter what that is, then it's the toxin, right? And so that's where you've really got to wash out and be clear. So how do you trust the process? Well, the process should already have your trust. It's everything that you've accumulated in your mind that is actually taking that state of peace and trust that should just be inherent, right? We joke, it's not a joke, but I say it often just so you can really think about it. How many days of your life has your body successfully killed you? And then how many days of your life has it successfully saved your life have you seen a pathology book? Unbelievable amounts of things that could go wrong, right? But yet it still has an unbelievable amount of ways to correct anything that you could encounter and survive. And so everybody sitting here right now in this moment, or everyone that's going to listen to this, in the future, we are all the proof, the undeniable proof, right? That the body should be trusted, right? None of us, I'm not sitting here with a physician monitoring my labs and making sure nothing can go wrong in this moment and trying to keep me alive. None of that's happening. I'm not even thinking about that right now, but all of these different processes are working in my body without any thought. So think about that. Do I stop healing a cut in this moment because I'm focused here? Instead of focusing on, the matrix and all the stuff within my skin, the dermal layers and all that, it doesn't matter, right? So that's where you've really got to wash out and get into the simple truth about what it is to heal. And it's not that we just sit back and are like, thank goodness I don't have to be an active participant. It's not that way, because what did we start the video with? Everything matters, everything touches you, and you are the biggest factor, right? And so, but the peace that you could have with exactly what your question was is how do I trust this? Well, look at it. And don't look at it through educated lens, right? Look through it simply, right? Simplify. Ask questions all the way down until you find the truth, right? That's even how I got to this medicine. It wasn't through, accumulation of, I went that route, learned everything, got certified in everything, just to come all the way back down and see that none of that was even necessary if you did all of the basics, right? Puppies, that's him knocking at the door. He's actually learned how to open it. So he may be joining us. So that's going to be how you trust that process. And the other thing that I would say when it comes to trust is you think about what earns your trust with another human being. Consistency. When you say you're going to do something, or when they say they're going to do something, they do it. They show up. They show you with their actions. So what you expect from others, I would say put on yourself first. Do you show up? Are you living in a way that you respect, right? Because if we don't respect somebody, we're definitely not going to trust them. So put that on you first. And you should respect how you live. You should respect the decisions you make. You should respect how you use your time. You should respect how you invest your energy. You should respect the boundaries that you put in place and how you carry them out, right? It should be you that you respect. And then when you respect yourself through the actions and everything that you're doing, trusting is going to be a side effect, right? It's not going to be hard to trust. It's going to be, again, just this natural side effect of well, I live this way and these are the effects of the causes, and I am, the governing factor of all of that. And the problem with that is when you take full ownership of it, you also start taking full ownership of everything that is not benefiting you, right? You have to take ownership of your place in, even relationships and why you allow things to be around you, and how you invest and manage your time. And so it's one of those things where you have to take all of it. It's not like you just get to cherry pick and be like, okay, I'm, the master when it comes to all of these wonderful positive things. And I demand my body to do these things so that I can trust it. It's like, no, you have to see that you're but you're the orchestrator of it all. And so when you take that ownership of all of it, you get the benefits of that too. And it really is that day-to-day living, that moment-to-moment. It's not just those moments where, you're eating the healthy stuff, or you're taking the supplements, or you're working out, or you're going on a walk, or you're meditating, or it's more those moments in between, right? It's not just those notes, right? It's the spaces in between the notes that make the music. And so oftentimes we look at all the things that we're doing and we're like, well, I ate this, and how many times do you eat a day, right? And then how many times do you meditate a day? And then how many times do you work out a day? And then when you look at the percentage of an actual day and how much you've invested in things that stress you out, how much you've invested in things that steal your peace, how much you've invested in things that destroy your self-concept, how much you've invested in things that just mindlessly steal your time, and then how much you judge yourself. And then when we look at the percentage of a day, how much of it was medicine and how much of it was poison? And then who was the prescriber of all of it, right? And so that's where you get to start being, the artist of your life. Of sometimes we have to be in places where we would prefer to not be. Sometimes we have to do things we'd prefer not to do. Sometimes we have to, be in unhealthy environments, right? And that's where you get to be clever and you get to be wise in how you utilize and live in your life. But at no point is it everything needs to be a certain way for me to be okay, right? That's, again, the truest part of healing and freedom is you can be in any room. You can be in any environment. You can live anywhere. And you know how to be well no matter where you go. And that's the coolest part of using your life as medicine, right? With the understanding that life is always medicine. It's not just when you start using it that it becomes medicine, right? So then you just take inventory right here. Like the best thing that I would say is if you're here, if you're spending time here, if you're investing your time here, right? I hope that there is a return on that investment. And then the other thing is go and utilize something that you gathered from this time. And if you're not utilizing it, then even if you felt good in this moment, it still wasn't worth the investment. It's worth the investment if this felt good, if this empowered you, if this corrected a misguided belief, if this reorganized a way of thinking, and then you utilized and put something into your actual life every single day moving forward, right? And so that's when you start really getting to see the accumulation of the effects of living your life as medicine. It's not just when you eat. It's not just when you're exposed to light. But again, think about that. You're always exposed to light to some degree, right? We won't get technical, of course, in all of this, but think about it. There's no moment that's not touching you. So how do we do this beautifully? And if you're in that world of overwhelm, again, you need to step back and stop learning and implement what you have learned and put it to the test. Does it work? Does it have an effect? Is it reproducible? How can you implement it in your way, right? No two people respond the same way to an input, ever. And so that's where you've got to really get into it. You've got to be the scientist. You've got to be the researcher. And you're sitting with the only research. That's my little love child. You're sitting with the only participant that matters, right? Because again, if we didn't study you, it technically doesn't apply, right? There's generalizations that we can make for people, but no two people are the same. And that's the beautiful thing. And that's also what makes medicine, the way we're trying to do it, so quote unquote complicated, and also so, again, there's a difference between right answers and truths. And we're giving a lot of right answers in medicine, but we're hardly ever giving very many truths from what I've seen, because the truth has to be from the premise and the perspective of the individual that's receiving the prescription, right? And so this is where, again, you have the greatest opportunity when you start seeing how much you matter. We're gonna pause for a second. Hey! He's still wanting to have a lot of beside me time. And so again, to circle back to the trust question, because trust is such a big thing, but trust requires implementation. Trust requires not just that you've thought about it a lot, but that you've engaged with it. And again, think about relationships with anything. The more you engage with it, the more it shows you who, it is, who they are. The more you see it in different scenarios, the more you're naturally going to have an easier access to trust, right? And it's such a big component to this because we have been taught to mistrust our bodies, even though, again, if you looked at the evidence, it's ridiculous. Because even, again, think about in an operating room, we take for granted the fact that the skin will repair itself. So some of these just unbelievable incisions, right? That we take that for granted. Like all the tissue is going to find its way back together. It's going to heal. It's going to close. All the wounds are going to close, and we're going to do all this other stuff inside. So you have to see that even going through a surgery is trusting your body. So it's not that you're not trusting. It's just you're trusting in the wrong thing. So go and look at the truth of what's going on. Even if you put a medication in your body, you're trusting that the body's going to do something with it. Right? If you drink alcohol, right, with everything that we know about alcohol, you're trusting that your body is going to know how to handle it, how to metabolize it, and how to detoxify from it, right? So you do trust your body. It's just it's the story that you're telling yourself with regards to what you can and should trust about your body. And so much of it is just you've been psychologically captured, right? And I was in that camp too, even in medical school. The amount of fear that you experience as a student in medical school is unbelievable because you know that the body can have things go wrong with it, but then you're learning about everything that could potentially ever go wrong, right? And so it's just an indoctrination. And so, again, if you really go and look at the truth of it, you do trust your body. Do you drink coffee? Have you ever drank coffee? Why? It's not that we have so much trust in caffeine. We trust that our bodies are going to respond to the caffeine. If you take a painkiller, is it because we're just these believers in painkillers? It's turning into that because of how society and media and everything go, right? I do think we're taking a turn and starting to take back our minds a little bit. But it's not that we're believers in these pills. It's we believe that the body's going to have a response to the pill. So even in that model, even in the model of surgery, you believe that you can survive a surgery. So you do believe in your body. But our belief, we're still outsourcing it to, no, it's the person touching my body. No, it's the thing going in my body. Well, what has been said in every sentence so far? My body. So without your body doing everything that it needs to do, the practitioner is pretty irrelevant. If the body was this thing that you absolutely could not trust, what's a practitioner going to do with it? If your body's the thing that is so unpredictable, why drink coffee? Why consume alcohol? Why sugar? Why even reach for a pill that you've never seen before, right? So again, think about it more appropriately. It's not that you don't trust your body. It's just the trust, it's misguided in the totality of the story that you're placing your trust in, right? But you're walking around, like if we were to stop you at any given point in a day and be just brutally honest and very blunt and just be like, okay, why are you drinking that cup of tea? Well, because these herbs do this and this and this and this. Okay, so we don't trust the body, but we do trust that cup of tea. But how does the tea work until it's introduced into the body? So then is it even true that you don't trust your body, right? But it's this way of, I don't even know, maybe we could have a deeper conversation around it, because it's, when you start thinking of it this way, are you feeling how it's kind of like, well, clearly I do trust my body, but why am I picking and choosing? Again, we talk about it with, the world of diagnosing. Why do we think that we can heal type 2 diabetes, but all of these others that medicines say are incurable, there's a line in the sand? Same body, right? And, 50 years ago, 20 years ago, even for a lot of these conditions, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, there were a lot of incurable things that are now like, oh, easy, right? And so again, it's really what you're buying into that's shaping your beliefs. And what I would encourage you, and what this medicine helps you do, is you start shifting out of the world of just pure belief and hope, which can be a positive thing for a certain amount of time. And you've really got to shift into the world of knowing, right? Because if you're like, even just think of like being in a debate with somebody that knows something versus somebody that hopes what they think is right, they're going to embody that conversation two totally different ways, right? And so you want to live in a way where you know things. And how do you know things? By what you do, where you spend your time, the experiment that you are living, right? You're the active experiment. So why did you ever trust in a pill? You heard stories about it. You've tried it, you've experienced something, and then you lost your trust because it stopped working. So again, follow the same formula. If you're not using it, you can't say that you don't trust it. Well, you shouldn't. So use it, implement it for, again, a sustained amount of time, because you've got to know that when you're using the life factors, you've got to dose them, like you would. I use birth control because it's like the most obvious, but you can take any prescription, right? Cardiovascular, any type, anything, thyroid medication. If you skip a dose and you have, repercussions to it, you're not mad at the medicine, right? You're like, I didn't take it. Again, take how we have taught to use birth control. You take it every single day, you don't miss a dose, and if you do and you accidentally get pregnant, it wasn't the medication's fault, right? It was the person utilizing the medication. Well, that's everything, right? So you've got to start using your life this way of, how are you using it? Are you sometimes doing it and sometimes not, and then saying it doesn't work, and then saying you can't trust your body? Your body is showing you literally everything. Literally everything. And again, I like to use the example of pigmentation changes with sun exposure, right? Because your body will tell on you. And I've had cute moments with patients before where they're like, yes, I'm out in the sun every single day. I have been for 4 months, and they are very, very pale. And so for a fact that that's not true, not because you're psychic, because there would be dermal changes no matter how pale the skin or how dark, right? And so then there's like this funny moment of like, actually, no, I haven't. You're right. But that's how the body always is. And so again, if you can put this way of thinking on using these other things that aren't pills, that aren't herbs, that aren't supplements, then you get a better idea of, well, if I'm not doing it every single day, I really can't say anything. Think about a research design, and just make it a gold standard research design. Are you doing it every single day? If yes, then okay, now you can start looking at the results after an accumulated period of time. If no, then that's unpredictable, and you wouldn't even continue that study, right? And so this is really how you have to start thinking. Just think practically, think simply. Everyone's making it so complicated. I've had so many conversations where it's really, the more complicated the presentation of something, the further away from the truth it is, right? There's that Einstein quote that's like, if you really understand something, you could explain it to a child. If you don't understand it, you keep it in that world of complexity because you're just hovering. And then if there's not a solution, it's because it's so complicated. But really, life is massively complex, but it's beautifully simple. And when you can fall into the utilization of that, it starts showing you, and then trusting is it's not a matter of willpower or even belief at that point. Like, why do you trust that you can have pigmentation changes with sun exposure? Think about it. Just because you heard stories? Probably because you've experienced it, right? Whether that be, inappropriate sun exposure and you've got a sunburn, or getting a tan, or whatever you want to call it. And so this is how you really have to start using it. It's a very practical way to live, and it really starts empowering you, but it also puts the pressure on you, but the pressure is already on you, because most of the time what people are medicating is the mismanagement of their actual life, right? And so you're going to have to do it no matter what. And again, using manipulation-based medicine, right? Supplements, even herbs, prescription medications, surgeries, exogenous hormones, all of those things. It's manipulation-based medicine. It's not wrong. So if there's a way that you want to use it and you're just like, I don't want to make the changes in my life that I know I need to make, then at least you're honest with yourself and saying, I'm choosing to do it in this way, right? Instead of, I'm going to make a story that my body can't do it, even though I know I'm not invested in the way that I could be invested, or changing where I know changes need to be made. And everyone's going to, jump on that question for a second, and I would just throw it back to you. I promise you know what breaks your heart every night when you go to bed. I promise you know every single day the thing that you wish you would not do the next day. I promise you know the thing in life that hurts the most right now, whether that's a relationship, a belief, a thought, a habit. You already know. And so you start there before you go try to, what I call, clean out the attic. Start on the first floor. There's no need to go up there just yet. And I promise you, by the time you get up there, it will make itself known to you. And so that's where I would say start. Your life is always your medicine. Don't make it to where it's like, only if I do healthy things is life medicating. No, if you're using manipulation-based medicine, I promise you, you're trying to out-manipulate the effects of your life, right? And don't take that as a judgment. Take it as, okay, now I'm curious about what's going on in my life, right? And then that's where we talk about how it leads you to the actual questions that need your attention, that only you can find answers to. Like, what is actually tugging at your heart? What's actually, informing why you study so much, why you're grasping for so much information, why you think you don't trust your body, what has captured your trust, where have you misallocated that trust that should be, in another place, right? And so then you get to spend time where it's going to get you an effect that can actually, change your life in the way when we say it changes your life. It's not just like these little things, it's astronomical, right? I've had so many people, like, when you finally experience what it feels like for a body to change, it's not these little tiny things that we feel with supplements and pills. Like, if you felt that, that's a cool feeling, right? But if you felt this gradual wave that moves, like, just completely takes you over to where you're literally not the same. Literally not the same. Once you've tasted that, you already know without anyone telling you the difference between manipulating and actually facilitating true change, right? It's undeniable. And again, until you've experienced it, the only change that you're familiar with is, I took a painkiller and the pain went down temporarily and then it came back up, right? And then I take it again. And then, so when you're in that kind of yo-yo life, you're manipulating. And that's okay, right? Sometimes we manipulate for a period of time to get us through different chapters of life. Or you just choose to manipulate and it's okay, right? There's no wrong way to do your life, right? Just be the artist of it. And when you choose and make it right, make it work for you, instead of, listening to this and doing this and, trying to, do mental gymnastics and then never really truly feeling at peace, right? That would be the way to not do it, or I would encourage you not to do that. But if you're somebody that's like, no, I want to manipulate this because I don't even want to go there, then that's fine. And again, that truthful kind of lighthearted, not kind of, like that lighthearted, truthful attitude and even disposition will probably change even the things that you were needing to change anyways, because it's the truth about how you're living. It's not just the performance, it's not just the actions, it's the juice of it. It's if, we could really, like, if I could come and sit beside you and ask you the hard questions while you were eating your lovely salad or your fruit or meditating or working out or running, and I could really ask you things in those moments, that's what's pulsing through your veins, not just the demonstration of, oh, they're eating a salad, they're running, they're working out, they're training, they're meditating. Yes, but what else? What else is there? What else is in circulation? What else is pulsing through your veins? And those are the questions that I would ask. And then when you're living in a way where you are in command and you know that everything shows you the truth. Again, I don't know about you, but when I've been in relationships where people just tell me what I want to hear, I cannot trust them. Even though people tell you what you want to hear because they want you to feel good, you can't trust that. When somebody's honest, and remember there's a difference between cruelty and honesty. Don't just mistake somebody being cruel and awful as, oh, they must be honest, because you could also fall into a trap there. But when somebody is honest with you, isn't it easier to trust them, right? And so again, that's what you want in your life. That's the level that you want to start looking at your life. Not, does it look good? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What is it? What is it really, right? And there's that post that I wrote a while back. I can put it back into circulation, but I really want you to think on it. What causes a smile and what a smile can cover are two totally different types of medicine. Think about that. Really think about that. And then apply it globally. And that's what we're talking about when you do your life as your medicine, or use it in a beautiful, livable way. And so that's really how to start thinking about it, because just because you're smiling doesn't mean you've got all the happy endorphins and oxytocin and all the things pulsing through your veins. Sometimes people smile when they're uncomfortable. Sometimes people smile when they're hurt. Sometimes people smile because they're feeling shame or guilt. Some people, sometimes people smile when they're covering sadness. And all of the truth of that is what's in circulation. The smile, right? And we're in kind of a dangerous time where it's easier and easier to mask the truth about how we feel. And so I would encourage you, at any point that you can take off a mask, at any point that you can, be what you really are, it's going to help you start understanding, why is my body doing what it's doing? There's a reason, right? Just because you're smiling, if your blood pressure's high, right? Kind of how I talked about in that movie video, right? If you're watching a scary movie and your blood pressure is high, it's supposed to be. So even if you're trying to smile your way out of it, to try to act like you're not, stimulated in that way, the smile doesn't matter as much, right? We could go into the technical chemistry stuff, but what's pulsing through you matters. And that's what I mean by all of this. So hopefully that answered that. We kind of went big on that. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay. And I'm going to be mindful of time too, because I know on these lives, I do put these on YouTube, so you can pause me. And fast forward and go back, but hopefully that makes sense. All right. Yes, I do put these back up on my page. You might have to go over to let him in. We can let him in. And I put them up on YouTube. The subscription ones don't go up on YouTube, so those are only on the subscription page. Yeah, so maybe can you think about trusting your body in a different way, right? Did that make sense, or should we clarify on that more? Hi, Mom. Someone else is here. Hi. All right. This is when I need music. I'm just trying to make sure that this is hitting. Did that make sense? Exactly, yeah. Once you've experienced true healing, right? Not manipulated, not sustained, manipulated effects. It blows your mind, and it breaks your heart wide open in the most beautiful way. And it literally is like all of life coming and grabbing your sweet face and being like, I told you I had you the whole time. I told you I had you, right? And then when things get hard, you're just like, oh, here we go again. But not in a way where you're overwhelmed. Here we go again in a way of like, let's buckle down, let's do this, let's, hit the gym again, let's get into training. It's kind of how it feels, instead of like absolute terror of like, what is going on, what's happening, am I going to be okay? That's why you do this medicine, do it to completion. Thank you. I know you don't know what I'm reading. We'll find a better method. We're going to be doing some changes soon. But I just wanted to get a couple more of these out before we end this chapter of lives. All right. So then the last little follow-up question with regards to trust, I really like that. Also, my father just joined. Hi. So the follow-up question right there that I'm going to follow up with is how to trust the body when the symptoms and doubt keep creeping in. Okay, so again, when you are doing everything that you need to do, that's a big win. So it's not just sitting back and hoping that things change even though you've not changed anything. It's when you've actually implemented things that need to change. And you're doing that consistently. No days off, no quote unquote cheat days, because again, would you take a cheat day on your blood pressure pills? Would you take a cheat day on your hormones? Would you take a cheat day on birth control? Would you take you don't use that medicine that way. So all medicine needs to follow that same logic. So when you're doing that, and you know that the symptoms are the healing, right? And so that's a big conversation, because symptoms and them getting worse or better we'll save for another time. But the symptoms are the healing. The symptoms are like that megaphone saying something is wrong, right? And usually the hard part is when they amp up, is when they're like at the peak of healing. So think of like when you burn your hand. So the pain peaks after, like you get that first shock to move your hand, but then you're going to get the blistering and the peeling. Enter my child. Okay. He literally just, okay, good job. He literally just broke in. This is Checo. Hey, come here. Calm down. So we're going to wrap up. What were we saying? You distracted me, you cute little thing. Hi. I think we had a whole 30 minutes apart. It's terrible. Okay, so the symptoms and the doubts. So we'll go into symptoms maybe at another time. That's a big conversation. I do have a lot on my regular page, my YouTube, even podcasts, if you want to go back in the archives and kind of dig into those with regards to symptoms. Because across the board, symptoms are the demonstration of the healing that's happening. That doesn't mean we want to just leave them alone and never change. It's the language that we're wanting to listen to. I have this little busybody. Okay, and so the doubt is really where I would say doubt is managed through, again, the respect that you have in yourself, the consistency with which you're implementing things, and the level of truth that is behind what you're implementing, right? And so I think there's some level of always needing Oh my gosh. Always needing something that starts breeding mistrust in us. If you're always going back and getting, another prescription or more supplements, or, if your practitioner's just always changing supplements and now you're doing a cleanse, and then ironically at the same time this new line of supplements came out, that's now the focus, and then now it's parasites, and now it starts breeding mistrust. And if you're always buying into it, then you start not trusting yourself, and that's where it gets dangerous. Not trusting practitioners is one thing. When it starts bleeding into you not trusting yourself, not trusting your body, you're thinking like, okay, well, everyone else is getting results but I'm not. That's when it's getting into a more dangerous psychological pattern that's going to be harder to eradicate. So I would say be careful with that, but it's really going to be, the thing about implementing truth is truth works no matter what. And then when you're implementing that consistently, right? Then you're working on your mind. You're working on those beliefs. Hey, that's it. And so that's where you have to, know the difference between your fears, your anxieties, your patterns, your environment stimulating certain things in you. And so it's a bigger conversation there too. But doubt, I think I have a video too, maybe we could recirculate, but doubt's a tool. But you need to be able to know how to use it appropriately and use it to benefit you. I think there's a video up on my YouTube. You're just going to open all the doors. That says doubt's a tool. And so it's a very beneficial thing. So we don't want to just rid people of doubting, right? Because it's sometimes what saves us from being manipulated by others. And so again, it's when the doubt is misallocated and you start doubting you start doubting your body, you start doubting your creator, you start doubting nature, you start doubting the things that are proving themselves to you day in and day out. That's doubt in the wrong direction. When you start doubting, needing everything to be okay and in your beliefs, and again, you've got to use doubt appropriately. It's not going to be something just like fear. It's not something we ever want to get rid of. We want to use it appropriately, and that's a different conversation. But from what I've done, working with a lot of people, is when we've put into work, like put in the truths, put them in every single day in a beautiful way, a delicious living way, and you're doing everything that you can with regards to life, nutrition, movement, all of those different things, and you're enriching your life in every other way possible. Again, it's just one of those things. Did you do everything that you could? Okay, then that's enough, right? And remember, sometimes being kind to yourself, and so many conversations we can have, but it's effort in the right direction, but not struggle. Remember, if you're in a state of struggle, you've got to zoom out again. Something about it's not right. Effort is very different than struggle. And most of the time when you're in that manipulation-based medicine model, you're struggling. You're always needing. You're always just like suppressing and managing, and this for this and another supplement. You're managing supplement side effects with more supplements, and that's the struggle. So you get out of the struggle, utilize effort where it's appropriate, put doubt where doubt needs to be, and that's where you start setting yourself free through the dedicated implementation of these things. All right, so we're going to wrap up for right now. Again, if you have these questions, when I upload this again and put it on my main page, if you want to put your questions underneath this so that I can just have like a spot for all of them, or I'll put up in the stories the little question box one more time, because that helped us organize it a little bit better. But the direct DMs or anything like that, they get lost. Or if you're just responding to like one story, that's not the little question box. I don't get to see all of those, unfortunately. All right, thank you all for being here. Yeah, Billy he's very annoyed. I'm very annoyed with this little sweetheart, but he's getting so much better. We are well into training, and he's becoming an awesome little guard dog. Okay. All right. I'm so glad that helped. Okay. Perfect. Thank you for being here. Again, if you invested your time here, go and invest it in your life now. Go put it into action, because it's the living of it that creates the integrity that you're desiring, to where there's no reason to not trust, right? And again, look at your body differently and look at how you do trust it. If you're eating tonight, you trust it. If you drink coffee, you trust it. If you've ever had alcohol, you trust it. If you've ever taken a pill, you trust it. So again, reallocate the trust, see it truly, right? Use simple, very practical, rational thinking, and your truths are sitting right there with you. Your body's perfect. This app agrees. And everything is for you, right? That doesn't mean you're not going to have to exert effort, and you're not going to have to get uncomfortable, and you're not going to have to make changes, right? But the changes that truly change your life, you'll know the difference. All right. So good to see you all. Bye.